A mother sits in the front row of a school auditorium. Her child waves from the stage. She waves back and smiles. Wide, bright, perfect. Nobody in that room knows she cried for 40 minutes in her car before walking in. Nobody asks. Nobody ever does. This is the story of what lives behind that smile. A 2019 study in the Journal of Family Psychology found that the majority of parents, across cultures, income levels, and generations, actively suppress their emotional pain in front of their children, not because they are dishonest, because they are parents. When the brain is under personal suffering while simultaneously responsible for a child's sense of safety, it triggers what psychologists call emotional masking. Cortisol floods the body. But oxytocin, activated by the sight of your child's face, overrides the visible signal. The result is a genuine-looking smile produced in the middle of a crisis. Parents don't fake their love. But millions spend decades faking they're okay, and the cost of that silence is something no one has fully told you about. Until now. There are 5 categories of pain that parents carry most silently. Not because the research says so, but because the research confirms what millions of families have already lived. The American Psychological Association reports that money is the #1 source of stress in adults with children, consistently, year after year. But ask most parents how they're managing financially, and they will say, "We're fine." One study of middle-income families found that over 60% of parents with children under 18 regularly concealed financial hardship from their kids, not out of deception, but out of protection. There is a specific kind of loneliness in sitting at a dinner table, watching your child eat, not knowing how you'll pay for next month, and smiling anyway, because their face is too innocent to burden. Millions of parents across the world live inside marriages that have quietly broken, but stay for the children. A University of Chicago study found that parents in low-satisfaction marriages report significantly higher rates of depression and anxiety than childless people in the same situation. Yet they are also significantly less likely to seek help, because seeking help means admitting the marriage is struggling. And admitting the marriage is struggling risks the children finding out. So instead, a smile at breakfast. Separate silences at night. When a parent loses a job, a promotion, or a career they built their identity around, they often grieve it the way others grieve a death. But they grieve it alone, because around their children, they cannot afford to grieve. Their job, the one that cannot be taken, is to show up. Bureau of Labor Statistics data consistently shows that unemployed parents with dependents experience acute anxiety and shame. Yet mental health support specifically for parental career loss is nearly non-existent. The former manager becomes the person who makes lunches and says, "It's just a career change. I'm fine." There is a terror that belongs only to parents. It is not simply the fear of dying. It is the fear of dying and leaving them. Many parents who notice a worrying symptom or receive an unsettling diagnosis delay medical care because they cannot psychologically afford to face the possibility of their own absence. So they wait. And while they wait, they smile. A 2021 WHO report highlighted that parents and primary caregivers are among the least likely demographics to prioritize their own health screenings. The cruelest irony. The person most needed is the least likely to protect themselves, because protecting themselves means confronting the possibility that they might one day not be there. A parent surrounded by people at a child's birthday party, smiling, completely alone. This is the most unspoken pain of all. Parenthood, by its very design, requires pouring yourself outward, constantly, completely. And the direction of that love is almost always one way. Not because children are selfish, but because they are children. They are not yet built to ask how their parent is doing in the deep way a parent sometimes desperately needs. A study in social psychological and personality science found that parents report higher rates of loneliness than non-parents in comparable life situations. The world tells parents that children complete them, Nobody tells them that completion and profound solitude can exist in the same heart, at the same table, at the same time. There is a version of every parent that their children have never met. It exists between midnight and 4 a.m. It is the parent lying awake running calculations. Can we afford this? What if I get sick? Did I do enough? Did I do too much? This version never sits at the dinner table. It lives in parked cars, in locked bathrooms, in the 30 seconds of silence between finishing the dishes and walking back to where the children are. The World Health Organization's 2022 report on caregiver mental health found that 1 in 5 primary caregivers globally meets the clinical criteria for anxiety or depression, and more than half have never spoken to anyone about it. Not a doctor, not a partner, not a friend. Because the dominant story we tell about parenthood leaves no room for the parent to be struggling. We celebrate the sacrifice but have no language for the suffering. We honor the smile, but we have never once asked what it costs to wear it every single day. Now think about when you last saw an honest image of a good parent, not a neglectful one, not a cruel one, simply sitting with the weight of their own pain. No lesson, no resolution, just, this is how hard this is. You haven't. Because we don't make those images. So the parent makes the only image available to them, the smile. At every birthday, at every illness they didn't tell you about, at every argument that happened after you fell asleep, at every moment they nearly broke, and chose not to, because you were watching. Here is the most important question you will hear today. When did you last ask your parent? Not, how are you? But, no really, how are you? And then stayed quiet long enough for them to answer honestly. Most of us haven't. Researchers at Harvard Medical School found in a 2020 study that the single strongest predictor of a parent's psychological well-being in later life is whether they feel seen by their children. Not celebrated, not thanked. Seen. There is a difference. Celebration is, thank you for everything you did. Being seen is, I know it wasn't easy. I know there were things you never said. And I want you to know, you didn't have to carry them alone. Studies show that when parents are finally given permission to be honest, to name the years of quiet grief, the psychological relief is measurable. Anxiety decreases. Depression markers fall. Many describe it as the first time in decades they have felt like a full human being rather than a function. A parent, a provider, a protector, a person. They were always a person. Return to the opening auditorium. Same parent, same seat, same child waving from the stage. The parent raises a hand to wave, and someone beside them quietly asks, "Hey, are you okay? Really?" The smile holds for one moment. Then, something shifts. Not collapse, just truth. A slow exhale, a real face. You know that smile now. You've seen it 1,000 times on a face you love. And maybe, until today, you didn't have a name for what it was carrying. It was not pretense. It was a decision, made over and over in the middle of pain you will never fully know, to give you a world that felt safe. That decision cost something real. The least we can do is finally ask. Call them tonight, not to thank them, not to check in, just ask, really ask, how they are, and then listen. What you hear might be the most honest thing they have ever said to you. 1 in 5 caregivers globally lives with untreated anxiety or depression. You may be the only person who can change that, for one person.